If a veteran or service member is seeking housing, food, clothing, mental health services, employment, education, whatever it is, we address it.
They actually had the Gary Sinise Foundation provide breakfast. So all the veterans got to eat a whole breakfast thanks to Gary Sinise Foundation. That's the one where we had over 400 veterans. And most of the time, these coffees are Vietnam era veterans.
Welcome to Veteran Voices SITREP with your hosts, Tom and Chris Faust.
Welcome to Veteran Voices SITREP. I am your host, Tom Faust, or co-host, with my son and co-host, Chris. And we're here today with Meredith Porter, who does a local coffee group with other female veterans. And then we also have Katrina Powell with Veteran Bridge Homes. And together they volunteer work for some help with veterans in North Carolina. And so, Meredith, why don't we start with you? Can you tell me a little bit about your military background and how you got involved with your little coffee meetings that expanded into more?
Sure. Thank you for having me on. It was kind of a surprise to get a message from you, so I'm really excited about this and being able to spread the word a little bit more. I'm a Marine veteran. I did 4 years, and I was stationed at Dam Neck Annex in Virginia Beach. So I was at the Navy and Marine Intel Schoolhouse for 4 years, pretty much the entire time. And then I transitioned out and kind of was finding my way. And then I stumbled upon Veterans Bridge Home when I was working at Humana, selling like Medicare insurance and stuff. And I found the veteran community actually that way. And Veterans Bridge Home just so happened to be one of those organizations that I found. And Laura Happer actually was the representative from that organization that asked me if I would want to start a coffee with her that is just for women veterans. And when I say coffee, here in North Carolina, we are saturated with coffees, which is just like a meeting for veterans to get together and, have some camaraderie and then learn about some local resources that are available to us. And in this one, we specifically wanted it to be tailored to women veterans because we have a hard time getting women together. So we wanted to make sure that they had a safe and secure environment. And it just so happened that because I was working at Humana, we had a safe and secure environment where like we could shut the doors, and say whatever we needed to say and feel safe and not judged. And, we didn't have any men around, so we felt like we could talk about some more personal topics. So yeah, that's how we got started. And I've been involved with Veterans Bridge Home ever since. And that, I think the first one we had was last May or June. So it's been a little over a year and a half now.
All right. That's great. Katrina, would you like to tell us a little bit more about Veterans Bridge Home and the kind of things that you provide for veterans?
Yes, sure. So thank you for having me as well. I was really excited when Meredith reached out to me to be on the podcast. This is my first time on a podcast, so I was super, super excited about it. But I am an Army veteran myself. I served for 6 years, stationed at Fort Hood, one tour to Afghanistan. I'm a market community coordinator at Veterans Bridge Home. And in my role, I'm responsible for engaging with community providers in order to access resources and services for our service members, veterans, and family members who are in transition. So I get out in the community, go to events, partner with providers to make sure that we have some available resources and services for those individuals.
Okay. What kind of resources would those be to, help veterans integrate into the communities?
So we address all the social determinants of health. So if a veteran or service member is seeking housing, food, clothing, mental health services, employment, education, whatever it is, we address it. We look and find resources or services, connect them with those resources and services so that they are able to thrive in the community.
And are you only in North Carolina, a certain area of North Carolina? How spread out is this?
Mm-hmm. So we're based in the Carolinas, in North Carolina and South Carolina. We have four markets in North Carolina. So Fayetteville area, Triangle area, Raleigh, Durham area. We're also in the Triad, so Winston-Salem, Greensboro area. And we have a small blueprint in South Carolina as well.
Yeah, Fayetteville. That's where I was stationed. I was in Fort Bragg, North Carolina for my military 4 years that I was there.
In what ways does Veterans Bridge Home, collaborate with other local organizations, or maybe I should ask, do you collaborate with other local organizations?
Yes, we do. That's a key part of us being able to get the resources and services for our veteran service members and families. So we collaborate with other organizations by attending or hosting events within the community. We also collaborate with our community providers through our NC Serves network. It's a coordinated network of local providers, nonprofit organizations, agencies, all coming together to provide resources and services for the veterans. So we collaborate in a lot of ways, just getting out in the community, making sure that people know who we are, trying to reach other veterans and service members through these events, such as, for instance, we just had a big, huge event in the Triangle area. It was the Veterans Benefits Live. I'm not sure if you all are familiar with that, but it's a big, huge event that goes on every year. It's for veterans. The VA hosts the event. They can come out, initiate their claims, check the status of claims, and get rated on the spot. And there's a bunch of vendors there that are helpful with getting the veterans connected to resources. Yeah, it's a really great event. So we do things like that, stand downs, employment fairs, job fairs, resource fairs, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Meredith, I was wondering, you mentioned how you got involved through your friend with Veterans Bridge Home. When you said that in North Carolina, these coffees are abundant, I guess there's a lot of them. Does it not necessarily mean meeting in a cafe somewhere? It's just a word for the meeting, or how does that work?
So from what I understand, it started in a coffee shop, and it was veterans who got together, and they called it a coffee and conversation, or just a coffee. And the coffee shop would provide veterans with free coffee so that they could get together and just chat. And this was years ago. I'm not exactly sure. I want to say like 10 plus years ago. And then somehow that got involved with one of the other people who work at Veterans Bridge Home. He saw this and took the idea from that and just kind of branched it out all throughout North Carolina. Now, Veterans Bridge Home is a really big host of the Richard Childress Racing Coffee. So it's Richard Childress Museum hosts the facility for the coffee, and the Veterans Bridge Home is responsible for getting all the veterans there, all the vendors there and everything. And they are big. I mean, they're once a month, and they can be anywhere from 100 to, I think in September there was 400 veterans for Patriot Day, 9/11. So it really just, if there's a special holiday or something, they try to make it way bigger, a big deal. But yes, anyway, for the saturation part, there's coffees all over the state. And so that just means meetings, we're getting together, we're providing resources, we're talking about veteran things that only veterans would understand. Yeah. So they're all over the place.
Nice. Great. I sounds like something I'd actually like to find around here. I'm in Washington State, but a little bit away. But sounds like it'd be an interesting thing to do or to look into. I should do that.
So I guess just kind of touching a little more on it. So this, big event, for holidays, whatever it is it is there like other festivities as well as talking about things? Is like, like a whole shebang, or is it just, hey, everybody gather, talk about some things and hey, call it good. Okay.
So the way it works at the, we call it RCR. It's just the RCR coffee is how we know it really around here. The way it works there is if it's like a holiday month, like for this one, for the 9/11, we actually had, or I say I volunteer with Veterans Bridge Home. I'm not employed by them. But they actually had the Gary Sinise Foundation provide breakfast. So all the veterans got to eat a whole breakfast thanks to Gary Sinise Foundation. That's the one where we had over 400 veterans. And most of the time, these coffees are like Vietnam era veterans. But this one was obviously highlighting Gulf War era veterans. So we were able to get a lot more Gulf War era veterans out, which is hard to do because a lot of Gulf War era veterans are just, they like to be to themselves. They like their home when they are home. They've made it their own world and they don't like to leave it, especially if they know it's going to be a crowd. But they were able to get a lot of Gulf War era veterans and mixed with Vietnam veterans and some Korean veterans. I think there was one World War II veteran there, but it's pretty amazing. The smaller ones tend to be about 100 or so veterans, but still there's like Starbucks, there's Krispy Kreme donuts, there's some other local bakery might bring in some pastries or something, but there's definitely always resources and vendors for veterans to walk around and get to know.
Nice. That's really cool.
Katrina, the Veterans Bridge Home, I know when I was doing my research on this, it mentioned that you've had to deal with some challenges like COVID-19, for instance, and other things that impact the availability of resources for veterans. Can you tell me something about how you make these adjustments and I don't know if you prepare or kind of figure it out as you go, but how you deal with changes in the environment that affect whether veterans are able to receive the things that you have to offer?
Well, in my short time at Veterans Bridge Home, what I found is that Veterans Bridge Home is very involved in the community, so they're able to adapt to the changing needs of veterans by constantly staying informed of different events that's going on and issues that may affect veterans. They're always looking to strengthen and develop partnerships with organizations, as well as provide as many resources and services as possible to the families to ensure that their well-being in this community. So that's what I can say is really great about Veterans Bridge Home. When veteran service members and families come to us needing assistance, we're able to quickly and effectively locate a resource for the service member, veteran, and family when they come to us. So I think that that's what's so great about Veterans Bridge Home and how we can adapt to the needs of our veterans.
So I guess it's for either one of you. Do you have any is there like a success story or a personal experience that, can highlight the impact of Veteran Bridge Home?
I'll go first. So I'll give a success story. It's an actual recent success story. So I'm I was working with assisting a homeless mom of 2 children. She is a disabled veteran. She moved here from out of state, I think Florida, and she was actually fleeing a domestic violence situation. And so she came to us. She was self-referred, so she went through our NC Cares 360 website to seek assistance, and she came to us looking for housing and shelter for her and her 2 children. And assisting her, it was kind of difficult. She was dealing with a lot of trauma. Her children dealing with a lot of trauma, and she was kind of like all over the place trying to figure out what to do. Very, very scared. This is the first time she's been in this situation. And so I was able to connect her to some local emergency shelter and had her go to one of our shelters to do what's called a coordinated entry assessment so that she can hurry up and get on the list for emergency housing. And once she did that, it took a couple of weeks, but they reached back out to her, and she was able to get into shelter on Friday morning. So, and through the partnerships that we have in the community, I was also able to get her some Walmart gift cards from a local organization that we partnered with, the Joel Fund. So, the community came together and was able to help her. She's also still in a program that we have at Veterans Bridge Home called the Staff Sergeant Fox program. And through that program, she's able to get mental health services with our care navigation team. So she's in shelter now. She's receiving mental health services. She has some money to be able to, or gift cards with some money on it, to be able to get some of the necessities that she needs for herself and her children. And that just speaks to the testament of the value, how important it is to be able to collaborate with the community and partner with the community so that we're able to efficiently and quickly get veterans the help that they need.
That's really cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's great that you can get people in the community to help, that you have enough influence around that brings that in. That's great.
Meredith, did you have anything to share?
Exactly what I was going to say.
I didn't want to, because I'm not I'm not as in deep, I guess, with Veterans Bridge Home as Katrina is, obviously, but I do work closely with them. So I'm just going to go based off of what I've heard has been helpful for other veterans. I am pretty close with my local veteran service officer in Randolph County here in North Carolina. And she was actually just saying in a meeting recently that she likes to put on these classes for suicide awareness training classes. Or if she has a veteran who's coming to her and they are in need of something or some sort of resource, she calls Veterans Bridge Home. And instantly, if not the same day, then very soon, those veterans are taken care of. This is what I get from the mouths of other people who do work with Veterans Bridge Home, is that they have most successful stories, which is very fortunate.
Nice. So how can veterans and their families, get involved or seek help? Is there flyers that go around, or how is the news spread about this good organization?
Yes, I'll be happy to share that with you. So veterans and families can get involved with Veterans Bridge Home in a number of ways. They can request assistance via the Veterans Bridge Home website at veteransbridgehome.org. They can also contact us by phone. We have an 800 number that they can utilize. It's on our website as well. And then they can self-refer by going to the NC Cares 360 website. So that's nccare360.org, or by dialing 211. They'll be connected to someone who can assist them over the phone and get them connected to the right resources.
Is that 211 number only good in the Carolinas, or is that a national thing?
211 is for North Carolina only. It's an information and referral service provided by United Way of North Carolina. So for the audience, I just want to clear that up.
Okay. So then something that they can probably find their own local number for information and go the same route, just different number that they would dial into.
Yeah.
Yeah, they may in whatever area that they're in, they would need to look up what's available to them in their area. But for North Carolina, 211 is our information and referral service provided by United Way of North Carolina.
I guess what's the most common thing that people call about when they're looking for help? I mean, the name Veterans Bridge Home implies getting homeless into some sort of home. Is that the main thing? Are there other?
The main focus of Veterans Bridge Home is helping the service member, veteran, and family transition back into their community. So if they are in, one of the main things a lot of our veteran service members contact us about is housing. They need help with rent. Maybe they fell behind on their rent payments. They need help with a utility bill. And then the second thing that they need is employment. A lot of, they're transitioning out of the military, so they're they don't know what to do. They don't know where to go. So they are looking for employment assistance and help with their resumes and things like that. So yeah, when they call, it could be a number of things that they need help with. Veterans, they have unique needs. They call about a lot of different things. Sometimes they just want the connection to mental health services, or they're dealing with some substance use issues and they need some connection to someone in behavioral health. So there's a variety of things that veteran service members and families contact us about.
And if someone wants to join with you, to volunteer for help, that kind of thing, how would somebody go about that? And I assume you accept volunteers. I mean, Meredith is helping.
Yes, absolutely.
So
the same way that they can seek assistance, they can just go to our website if they want to volunteer or get involved in what we do and the work that we do. They can go straight to the website, veteransbridge.org. Can call us, email us. Everything is on our, all the contact information is on our website. They can reach us through that way. That's the quickest way, I would say, probably.
Just switch back to Meredith here real quick. I know you briefly touched on your military service, but kind of let's go towards the end of it there where, what was your transition from military to civilian life like?
I mean, I can honestly say because I was pregnant when I got out. So I didn't know of any resources that were available, like, especially as a pregnant, woman. And I was going from the military back to civilian life. So I didn't know, if I was still able to use any military benefits or if I had to just get some, insurance, private insurance. I didn't know if I just didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to go about getting a job, even though, they had kind of put me through TAPS, but not really. They just kind of gave me some books and they gave me a week-long thing, you can go out here and find jobs this way. But it wasn't really anything detailed. It didn't really help. You know what I mean? Especially because I was 7 months pregnant and I was like, okay, well, how do I pick a hospital to go to if I can't be on base? There was just a lot of things I didn't know and I wasn't prepared for. So it was pretty hard for me to transition. I got lucky though, because if it hadn't been for some of the skills that I got while I was in the Marines, I wouldn't have been able to get my feet on the ground. So it might have been a little bit of a rocky start, but because I had a military background, I was able to find some sort of stability until I could, build myself back up. So it took me about 10 years. Actually, yeah, last year is when I started finding out about all the resources that were actually available. And honestly, since I found this community, my life has been tremendously better. Right now I have a disability rating, which has been helpful. I'm taking care of my mental health now, which is a godsend. And I've just been learning a lot more and I've been able to give back to the community, and I feel like I've been able to help more veterans know about these things that are available to them, which is, I've found out is my heart. This is my calling. And if I hadn't joined the military at all, I never would have found my path. You know what I mean? So yeah, you go through that hard stuff to find the light.
Yeah. So kind of following up on that too is, what advice would you give to veterans struggling with their transition to civilian life?
Reach out to your resources, like your veteran service office. I had no idea about that until a couple of years ago. That is a huge resource. They will help you with your claims if you need one to get started. They'll help you with other resources, like if you need housing or employment or anything like that. Or if you even want to go to your local American Legion or VFW, they have resources that help you. If you don't know about other nonprofit organizations like Veterans Bridge Home, if you just get into those that for sure are veteran organizations, they'll help you. They'll get you started. And then once you get in, it's endless. The resources are endless. So yeah, my opinion is definitely seek out your local veteran service office.
Nice. Yeah. And I understand that every county in the country I believe that's what I've heard. Every county in the country has a veteran service officer that you can contact. And so that's an important place to start, because with that, you can find whatever other resources are available, but it's a very good place to start and to get help. So do you have any, Meredith, do you have any specific personal goals to, in your continued involvement with Veteran Bridge Home?
Obviously, women veterans are kind of my path at the moment. Obviously, I'll help any veteran. I just want to be able to do my part in making sure that veterans know that they're not alone, and that like it can be scary to venture out of your own comfort zone at first. But I mean, honestly, the veteran community has been like a family to me, because I mean, in like any family, it's going to be a little dysfunctional, right? But for the most part, there are people that you can count on. And I mean, I feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be. I think it's important for me to keep on the path that I'm on right now, and making sure that women know that they have a safe space with our coffees that we have at the moment. So we have two. So hopefully it can be a little convenient, because women are working, they're stay-at-home moms, they're busy, and we get that. And so we've made them hybrid. So you can be in person and virtual. We want to make sure that we have an in-person option, because if you need like mental health counseling or something related to mental health, that there's someone there to talk to you on site. But we also have it virtual, because we know that it can be tough to meet in person all the time. So hopefully that's another option for some women. But there's just a lot of resources out there. And if being on the social media route is how I need to do it, then that's how I'm going to do it. I'll do whatever I can to make sure that people know that they're not alone.
Yeah, I think it's actually, I would guess, not being a female veteran, but I would guess that it's a little more of a struggle for women veterans to reach out and find help, because it's a male-dominated area. It really is. Yeah. And as you mentioned earlier, being able to talk about some things, whatever those are easier amongst other women than it is with men around. So I appreciate that. You mentioned that these meetings are also virtual. Is it something that you still try to keep to the local area, to people you know in that area, or is this a virtual thing that people from anywhere might be able to sign up with you or whatever it takes and be able to join in?
People from anywhere can join. It is women only, so we do monitor who comes into into the virtual meetings. But yeah, I mean, you can come from anywhere. The only thing is some of our guest speakers are local to North Carolina. So like if we have equine therapy, then obviously they're going to be in North Carolina, or, other resources like that. But I mean, we don't always just talk about that one guest speaker's services. We also talk about other, like if you have some women's health issues that you need to talk about through the VA, we have, topics like that are specific to women. So it's a good place for women to come together in general. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world. If you want to join us, you're welcome to. And they don't have to be a veteran. They can be a spouse. They can be a caregiver. They can just be a supporter, and we'll welcome them.
So do you happen to have any advice for veterans who may be interested in starting similar meetings in their area, like what you do?
It's hard. I'll give you that a little bit. But I think the best way to do it is like I did. I found Veterans Bridge Home, or they found me. And that's just an organization that just already had a pretty big, I guess, community. But if you wanted to like partner with another veteran organization like American Legion or VFW or Veteran Service Office, they have the resources to be able to get the word out there and pull some more people out of the community together. Even like local churches will give you the space, so you don't have to pay for it or anything. And then most of the time, if you go to places like some Starbucks will be happy to give discounted coffee, or if not free coffee, to meetings, in the name of veteran, I guess, giving back to the veteran community. And like we have some local veteran owned businesses that will bring some resources too, like pastries, like I said earlier. but yeah, I would say talking to some of the organizations, especially if they're nonprofit, they know how to get the community more involved, you know what I mean, without having to pay anything.
Mm-hmm.
Katrina, do you have any similar advice for veterans who may want to start an organization or at least meetings like this?
Yeah, I think I would agree with everything that Meredith said. Yeah, we do have a lot of coffees in the area, but I also don't think that, I think that if you want to start a coffee, why not? We're not everywhere, and there's more needed for women veterans. So yeah, I would say, go for it. If you want to start a coffee, yeah, I want to see our coffee grow as well. So I would agree with Meredith.
And then, how can listeners, support Veterans Bridge Home and the veteran community more broadly? Like if they don't, if they don't want to necessarily partake in it, but they really agree with what you do, how can they help support your organization?
I'm sure donations are always welcome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Definitely go on the website, reach out if you want to donate, if you want to collaborate with us on an event or anything like that. Just go to the website, reach out to us, and we'll be happy to have you help us in our efforts to help service members, veterans, and families.
Meredith, is there anything that we haven't discussed that you would like to mention, to bring up?
I did want to add to the Chris, when you asked about like the transitioning
Mm-hmm.
part, that, and I've noticed this has been in agreement with a couple of other female veterans, is that women struggle with imposter syndrome. Have you heard of this before?
I have not.
I've heard of it. Yeah.
I mean, with the women veterans.
Oh, okay.
So I know from my own experience that I struggled with it because, and I didn't even realize it until someone else brought it to my attention. But the imposter syndrome, and I think part of the reason why I struggled so hard after I got out was because of this, was that I know that I work really well under pressure and in stressful situations, so that's part of the reason why I wanted to join the Marines of all branches, because I knew that I could get the job done and I could get it done pretty well, in a stressful situation. But while I was in, unfortunately, I was not given the opportunity to prove myself, and so when I got out, I mean, I had accomplished a lot while I was in the Marines, but in the civilian world, it didn't translate. So I got out thinking, well, I mean, I didn't do much in the military that people in, civilian life would understand. I didn't know how to tell anyone in the civilian world, like, yeah, I'm a Marine, but that doesn't mean I was like carrying around a rifle all day. That doesn't mean I was like literally running up and down sand hills all day long. I mean, I did do that, but that's not all I was doing. You know what I mean? So it was hard. And because there are fewer female Marines than there are male Marines, everyone was just kind of like, what? You were a Marine? No way. I don't believe it. And, they expected me to be a big buff lady who had all these muscles, I guess. So, stereotyping. So yeah, the imposter syndrome, it kind of made me, I didn't want that attention. I would kind of only let people know that I was a veteran at all, when it just kind of came up. So like if I was going for a job interview, the way I got a decent job after getting out was because I used my veteran status, which, I mean, I hate using that. I hate taking advantage of, I'm a veteran, let me do this. I don't like doing that. But I had to, because I had to have a decent job for my children, you know what I mean, to get back on my feet. So, yeah, imposter syndrome is a real thing. And I think a lot of women either don't realize that until someone brings it to their attention, or if they do realize that, they might think they're alone. So I want to make sure that women know that they're not alone. And that's another reason why this coffee is here, so that we can get together and talk about this stuff a lot more.
Nice. It's a really good additional perspective on it.
It is, yeah. And not from the female perspective, but I do understand imposter syndrome to some extent because even doing this, okay, yes, I'm a veteran. My son is a veteran. He actually joined right after 9/11 or right before 9/11, and then you ended up going.
Yeah,
to
I was in airborne school when September 11th happened. So I joined at a time where it's like, all right, I'll get some college money, get an experience, grow up a little bit. And then I'm doing that. That day happens, and I'm like, oh, well, this just changed things. So
yeah. But from my standpoint, I was completely peacetime. I'm a Vietnam era veteran, but I was not in Vietnam. I actually spent my time in the Panama Canal Zone, which was a nice station as an X-ray technician. But where imposter syndrome comes in is that even sometimes doing this podcast, it's like, well, I'm not, a war veteran. I didn't go out and have to, shoot at anybody or anything like that. And so I often feel like I don't necessarily fit. Yet technically, I'm still a veteran. I served. I did time there, and I understand. I understand how you can not feel like you belong. Where in reality, I think that we're doing some good with this podcast, and that it has value, and so it's still worthwhile. So yeah, I get that. Katrina, is there anything that you want to bring up that we hadn't already mentioned?
Do want to bring up and I want to highlight is a service that Veterans Bridge Home offers, which is the Staff Sergeant Fox program. This program is basically centered around suicide prevention, mental health, mental wellness. And so through the program, it enables us to provide resources and services toward suicide prevention for our veterans and their families. What we'll do is when we do an intake with the veteran, we'll do 2 screenings with them, suicide screenings, and just to assess their mental health towards, or suicide risk factors and ideations and things like that. And if they consent and if they're found eligible for the program, we'll go ahead and refer them to our care navigation team for additional mental health services, education, or information. And that team will spend a lot more time with the individual to assess whether or not there's some unmet needs there. And so I bring that up because, one, it's suicide, it's National Suicide Prevention Month, and suicide, is, the number one cause of our service members and veterans' demise. So we want to raise awareness to these issues. And I want to make sure that people know that we have this resource available to them if they wish to participate in the services that we provide when it's surrounding this. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because I think it's important for this time, this month, excuse me.
Yeah, 22 a day is 22 too many.
Yeah.
Actually, that it's actually closer to 28 a day.
It's gone up since I heard.
And unfortunately, North Carolina is number 1 in that.
Oh, that's too bad.
Well, yeah, it's one of the reasons we're doing this is to help get the word out that there is help out there in the form of many organizations, and yet nobody should be put in a situation where that's the decision, that's the route they want to go. There's always somebody out there that's more than willing to help, to talk.
Yeah,
it's just it's out there, and that's why we appreciate anyone who tunes into this podcast. If they like it, subscribe to it, share the information, get the word out. So that way we can try and help somebody and, save the lives of, the folks that have, saved others' lives with their service. It's just, we really want to spread the word about this because it's a big thing and it needs to be addressed. People need to be helped.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. And thank you all for having this podcast because it's really needed. And it's very valuable. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for coming on. We do appreciate your time and taking your Sunday afternoon to spend time with us. And I hope that people see this, and especially in the Carolinas, and seek you out find some help there. And for anybody looking to start a similar organization, at least here's some information that you might be able to glean from this and start your own little meetings. If there's nothing else, then I guess that's it for today. And we will see you in our next episode.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.